Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Bo Maddox.
And this is Collateral Gaming.
Objection!
Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. And welcome to our Game Launch Edition review of the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy. Bo, I've been so excited for this since it's been announced. How about you?
Oh, man, I've been so ready to get, right into this trilogy. And, I have some things to say about it. It is quite an interesting playthrough, especially the first game.
Yeah, so Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy is the second trilogy of games in the series. It's games 4, 5, and 6 of the Ace Attorney series. So this is a direct continuation of the trilogy. These 6 games currently make up the mainline series. And yeah, it was kind of interesting that they ended up packaging these 3 games together in the first place, but honestly, I kind of figured that they would. These 3 games being Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice.
So, how come it's called the Apollo Justice trilogy? Is that just, for general purposes, or...
Well, I actually had some thoughts about this because long before this game was announced, I figured that they should do this trilogy of games, and Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy is exactly what I would have called it, because despite the fact that Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice are technically Phoenix Wright games, they do kind of conclude a story arc for Apollo in a lot of ways. Spirit of Justice even more so. So Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice, in fact, both add on specific aspects of Apollo's backstory. In fact, I think that's actually one of the criticisms is that every game has got to add a new part of Apollo's backstory, and then it feels like they're just retconning it. But I do feel that his story arc is concluded by the end of Spirit of Justice. And it really makes sense. So even though he's less of a focus in the other 2 games, they do sort of tell his story in a lot of ways, because Phoenix has already gone through his character arc in the Phoenix Wright trilogy, and he really more stands in a mentor role in these games.
And it's really interesting to see Phoenix kind of take that senior role. It's what kind of makes these games... I would say slightly more relatable to me, especially being, the oldest one on the podcast and everything. It's like I kind of feel where he's at there, especially in the first Apollo Justice game. I mean, yeah, he's been out of the game for a while, but, he hasn't lost his edge, nor has he necessarily lost his the contacts that he had, I mean, he's still. I mean, even by the end of that particular game, he's even taking a more hands-on role in the final case and everything. So,
Yeah, definitely. And we see him even start to actually take an even more active role as he returns to being the main protagonist of the next two games. But they sort of split the cases so that Phoenix, Apollo, and Athena, the new character in that game, all have, at least a case or two that they take the lead on. But Phoenix is definitely kind of the central focus in those games. But then Apollo sort of is too in a few ways. But yeah, I agree with you on Phoenix being a little bit more relatable. In a different sense for me, it's the fact that he's a dad in this game. So that's something that I can relate to.
Well, that's another thing that, I mean, where it relates to me is that it kind of reminds me of my brother and his Phoenix's relationship with Trucy. Reminds me of my my brother and my niece, who are actually kind of close to Phoenix and Trucy's age in this game, so respectively. So, kind of made me think of that a little bit. And,
yeah, it's kind of funny. In Apollo Justice, I think they make a few references to the fact that Phoenix seems a little bit young to be her dad, and I'm like, is he that young though? I mean, he's like 33 and she's 15. No. That's not
too unheard of these days.
Yeah. I'm like, that's what you have an issue with. But we, the audience, should take an issue with it, because if Phoenix had a kid that young, we would have known about it. Because
that's what I was initially thinking, is like, well, wait a second, 33? It's like, in Trucy's 15. It's like he would have to have been like 26, 27 when he had her, or something like that, or even younger, like 22. Like that would have had to been like him and Iris's kid or something like that. I mean,
he would have had to have her at 18. Actually, that's the thing.
At 18, even younger. So that would have had to been Dahlia's kid.
So it's possible, but it's not something that Dahlia, exactly. Like it conflicts with what we know about Phoenix, because he's 24, I believe, in the first Ace Attorney game, and we see him as young as 21 in that case with Dahlia. So, it's starting to set a few red flags, and they don't fully answer the question until the last case, which is interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and spoil it, because Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice do, and they're standalone games. But she's actually his adoptive daughter. But the circumstances regarding, how that comes into play are, they unfold through the narrative. And we're going to keep this review mostly spoiler-free, so I won't fully go into it, but I love the dynamic between Phoenix and Trucy. Honestly, I feel like it's a little underutilized in this trilogy.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Trucy is just kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air when it comes to Apollo Justice and whatnot, I mean, she kind of fulfills the Maya role here.
Yes.
Or when it comes to or even Emma's one-time role in that respect. But I mean, also when you actually find out the real connection that she has to these characters, I mean, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now this particular relationship makes even more sense.
By the way, that little bombshell that they drop at the very end after the credits in Apollo Justice, right, with the specific relationship between Trucy and Apollo, right?
Yeah.
That's never touched on again. As well as the identity of their mother. Like, they're like, okay, we'll tell them later at some point, and then like they just never.
That's disappointing, because that was a very compelling story arc, honestly.
Yeah.
Then whenever you first start to realize, what's going on there, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
and,
it's actually really cool.
It's disappointing that they didn't elaborate on that any further.
Yeah, that and Trucy in a lot of ways gets shafted in the next two games. I mean, she's a part of them, but never as the defense assistant and never in as big of a role. She is the defendant in one of Spirit of Justice's cases.
Oh wow, no kidding.
But in a magic trick gone wrong, basically kind of scenario.
That's right.
But you have to prove that she actually didn't make him, like, it wasn't an actual accident, but it was like a setup. But We'll get into that
okay.
later when we get into Spirit of Justice. But yeah, Trucy is a great character. Like you said, I mean, she serves in the role that Maya did in the original trilogy and Emma in Rise from the Ashes. Speaking of Emma, she returns in this game, which is interesting because Rise from the Ashes was a case that was exclusive to the DS version and the international version of Ace Attorney. The first.
Now, let
game.
me tell you, man, my girl Emma. Damn, I feel her cynicism, man. I feel it. It's like, I mean, there's a certain age where you just kind of becomes natural to you. Even if you are a very positive person, at some age you start to get a little cynical, especially if it pertains to your job and whatnot. And she is just like, I don't know, she's semi-checked out almost, to tell the truth. You know,
Munch.
Anytime she gets those snackoos going. Yeah, anytime she gets those snackoos going, like she's just checked out.
So, would you believe me if I say she's in a better place when she comes back in Spirit of Justice?
I would believe that. Yes, I would hope so.
She is. She's in a much better place at that game. But yeah, I love this version of Emma in Apollo Justice. She's just, like you said, very cynical. Always stress eating, and yeah, Emma's great, and just kind of seeing this character growth.
Her teeth have to be jacked up after stress eating all those snackoos, man. Like, I mean, they're like sweet chocolate snacks, right?
That's what they appear to be. That's what I assume.
Yeah. So man, she must be destroying her teeth, or I hope that she's like flossing and brushing every fucking night, you know?
Right?
Because goddamn.
For real. But yeah, so Emma comes back. She also appeared in Investigations 1, which was fun. But she's just such a great character, and she's definitely a much more competent detective than Gumshoe.
Oh, very much so. You know, Gumshoe is just kind of so lovably head up his ass in a way. You know what I mean? Lovably so. But Emma is actually kind of on top of things, you know, like especially when, like especially in the second case when, you know, her and Apollo are literally right there when the catalyst for that one, the murder happens. So,
talking about Turnabout Serenade.
Turnabout Serenade, yeah, which I really, that's a third one, right?
It's actually the third case.
Was
yeah.
That is actually the third case, man. She was great in the third case, honestly.
No, she is. I agree.
And that is also my personal favorite case for various reasons.
Nice. You know? Okay. So your favorite case from the trilogy was Turnabout Big Top, which was one of the most hated. Turnabout Serenade is a big competitor for most hated Ace Attorney case of all time.
I don't understand that. I mean, it once again, I guess it goes back to having a background in you know, creative stuff, you know, like audio engineering and music and whatnot. Like Clavier, that's him and Peace, Love, and Understanding. Like, those are my people right there. Those two are my people.
I love Clavier.
Like, straight up, man.
He is such a great
Clavier
character.
is great. What I love about him is that he never takes a fully, like, malicious stance against Apollo and everything. Like, he's actually very cordial with him. You know?
He is. And I was actually thinking about that. Out of all the prosecutors in the series, Clavier Gavin is the only one that's actually like amicable and like, you know what I mean? Well, besides Edgeworth in later cases, I should say. But, you know.
Dare I say he's approachable even. You feel like you could actually talk to him.
You do.
You know?
You do. And it's great. And he even has a connection to Phoenix, which, you know, you see by the end of the game. But Turnabout Serenade is Gavin's case. It's the one that he's intimately involved because it was at one of his concerts. And I gotta agree with you, Bo. I don't really understand the hate because I don't even think that Turnabout Serenade is necessarily one of the weaker cases of this game. And like I definitely felt the same way that most people do about Turnabout Big Top for a few reasons. But there's a couple things I like about it, but none of the criticisms of Turnabout Serenade to me really hold up. And maybe it's because, like you, I have a little bit of a background in like listening to the same things over and over and over again. You know,
Exactly. It's an audio engineering thing, which actually comes into play in that game. I mean, I don't know how much of a spoiler this is, but you do actually get to fuck around with a mixing board in that game.
You do, and that was fun. I really enjoyed that.
My one complaint, though, is that was not accurate. They didn't have a solo button on it. Like most all mixers, they have solo buttons on every channel. That would have been a lot easier than having to turn your mix down and just to listen to one track, you know?
Right.
That minor complaint, I mean, I love that element, you know? It was right up my alley. I'm just like, oh, okay, I can actually use a little bit of my listening skills for this, you know?
Right. Like, I thought that was actually kind of fun. But I think what most people take issue with is the fact that you have to listen to the guitar serenade and watch that clip over and over and over again. But
the biggest thing with that for me was trying to really nail the melody of the lyrics down, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of like guitar.
There's a part that really actually requires you to listen and figure out, you know, what went wrong between the lyrics, the melody, and the various instruments.
Exactly. And once again, that's another thing that, you know, being a producer or an audio engineer, like you actually, I mean, you gain that skill. It's like you can tell if somebody actually misses their cue. Like you can easily hear it.
Yeah, totally. And I could definitely understand that. Now, I don't have as much of expertise in that area, but with podcast editing, I am used to listening to the same clips over and over and over again. So that particular aspect did not bother me. I also think that the Trilogy version might have made a couple of improvements. I don't remember if the ability to skip to different parts of the song was available in the original version or not. But
that would have been interminable, you know, because I mean, in actual mixing and everything and editing, like being able to scrub your waveforms or being able to kind of listen to everything kind of forward and backward and hone in on what's wrong, you know, like that's integral to editing and engineering there. So, I mean, not being able to, or even just doing a quick, go back to the beginning of the song or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Like, not having that ability, that would be, ugh. I think I can kind of understand that a little bit.
I can't quite recall. I played the iOS port too, not the original DS version, mind you. But
Okay.
But yeah. But in any case, that I didn't mind so much. You know, the guitar serenade thing, and some aspects of it were actually really fun. I thought that the audio engineering parts were good. One of the complaints that I think I do somewhat agree with, though, is that the people involved in that case that have a personal stake and should want the best for the defendant, Machi Tabaye, including Machi Tabaye himself, are
you would think so,
not
but
as helpful
yeah.
as they should be.
No, it feels like they're just going out of their way to just engage in subterfuge, you know? I mean,
Yes.
at every stance, like even La Miroir, you know? It's like you just kind of... You're just like, dude, La Miroir. It's La Miroir, right?
Le Miroir.
La Miroir, okay.
It seems French, but it's actually Bourguignon, but I think it's based on French.
La Miroir. Yeah, it's
the
like La
fictional
Miroir.
country of Bourguignon, which also comes up in investigations.
Yeah. At first I thought it was Russian, but then I remember no, in the first game they actually have a Russian Borscht Bowl club, you know. It's like that's good. So Russia canonically exists in Phoenix Wright. So
yes, it also in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles there are Russian characters. So
yeah, and I was like, I mean, maybe it's like some Eastern European country, maybe, but I mean, I don't know, maybe French kind of, or maybe French or Bulgarian or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Belgian, even.
Well, it also, you know, like there's also the whole geography of this universe, because later we'll get into Kurain, which is some like nation that is specifically for spirit channeling and it's like a part of that ancestry. And the Kurain channeling technique, which in the localized version of the games has origins in Japan, you know, but it also connects to Kurain, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like a kind of an analog to maybe like Tibet or Nepal or something like that.
Yeah.
In a way.
We'll talk about that later when we talk about Spirit of Justice. But
Yeah.
Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. Overall, it's not my favorite out of this bunch, but I actually kind of have a soft spot for Apollo Justice. When I was playing through this game for the first time, I really actually vibed with it.
Yeah, I feel what you mean. I really like a lot of these side characters, Eldoon was pretty cool. Who else was there? Like, of course, Le Miroir was also really cool. Like, she was awesome as well.
Yeah. And the characters in Turnabout Succession, Drew Misham and Vera Misham, they were interesting.
Poor Vera. I felt so bad for her. That's another area I related, is that I was fucking homeschooled. So not in as nearly as sheltered a way as she was, but it's like, I'm like, oh, poor dear girl. I feel your pain there.
Yeah. I could see that. And then that is a very interesting. Now, Turnabout Succession, I actually want to talk about it because as a final case, I felt that it was very underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is that there's that one computer investigation thing that kind of slows it to a crawl.
The Mason system is my problem with this case because this case starts out okay. Go ahead.
As soon as I started on that section, and you kind of told me that was one of your problems. I was like, yeah, I think I can kind of see what the problem is.
Some unfortunate implications.
Unfortunate implications, and it does drag a little bit. It drags the pacing of the whole case down. Especially after you just played through an integral part of that case. Very integral part of it. When then you're just kind of back to that.
When you get to play 7 years ago?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it just, you go from something as intense as that to this multiple investigation. It just breaks down the pacing even worse than most of the actual investigation segments,
Yeah, and the Mason Systems is an investigation segment, essentially. But here's my problem with it, is that you actually have to... It flips between 7 years ago and the present. But the problem is that you have to actually time travel to progress forward. So the Mason System is actually not an actual, representation of events. It's like the simulated version of events, which is used to... affect this trial and the implications of Phoenix using this system to basically, get the jury to acquit the defendant and
also clear his own name.
And right. When you consider that he's trying to clear his own name here, but he's showing them this simulated version of events. I don't know. It's just weird, man.
But I will say at the very end of that case, when you see that hand, it's like you're just like, oh,
that was
okay.
cool. That was cool.
That was cool.
I liked that part of it. And I'll tell you what, Turnabout Succession starts out strong, or I should say, once you really get to see the bigger picture, it's strong. Like the case that's behind it is almost kind of forgettable, but once you realize the victim and the defendant's role in the events from 7 years ago, that's when the case gets really good. And that flashback section is just perfection. That was just nostalgia at its best. Getting to see Prime Phoenix Wright, Gumfuck. Oh, I miss
Gumshoe.
him so much.
I was so excited. I was so excited for that. I was like, Gumshoe!
And they even play the music from the first Phoenix Wright game. And I was just like, I was so in love with it. And then the Mason system it breaks it down for me. I'm just like, ah.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have similar problems with that then. Yeah.
But I want to end my thoughts on Apollo Justice, I guess, on a high note. Turnabout Trump may very well be the best tutorial case in the series, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with you there, honestly. I mean, it especially when it has a very classic kind of setup, with a poker game that gone wrong and whatnot.
Yeah. That was actually kind of fun. You, me, and Robert were playing that together, and we're kind of like, I watched you guys try to figure it out, and you're like, oh, there's a fifth ace.
Exactly. I mean, Robert pretty much figured that out immediately. He was just like, wait, there's 4 aces. There's a fifth ace in play here.
Yeah, you guys figured that out quickly before it even really came up in the narrative, but it's like one of those things that you're watching out for already.
Yeah. I mean, this is a game series that really, where it really pays off to be as observant as you can, Like, I mean, whenever a picture comes up that is put into the court records, I mean, it always behooves you to take a good close look at it. Just take every take every look, every angle at it, and just take it all in.
And that's something that Apollo Justice actually added to the series and has a distinction. It and Rise from the Ashes are the only cases that allow, and the Great Ace Attorney games are the cases that allow you to actually individually examine evidence and look at it from all angles. And that was something that they added because Apollo Justice was the first game that was actually developed for the DS. So it really takes advantage of that. Also with the forensic techniques and whatnot as you play through the game. But going back to Turnabout Trump, one of the best parts of it, I think, is the defendant. Because coming into it, I knew that we were going to see this older version of Phoenix that was Hobo Phoenix that had been disbarred and 7 years ago for presenting forged evidence. I knew that whole backstory going into it, but I didn't know that he would actually end up being the defendant of the first case.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And also the circumstances of how he got there, and then how it just kind of loops back around in the end. It was very interesting.
And he's a very different Phoenix than we see in all of the other games. In the trilogy and even the games that come after it. This version of Phoenix in particular is very, very interesting. He's kind of mysterious, a little bit of a little bit morally gray at times. I think at one point he specifically states that like it's okay for me to present forged evidence because I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I remember that. And he got away with it to his benefit.
Yeah, so this version of Hobo Phoenix, with the casual clothing and the 5 o'clock shadow, I actually enjoy him quite a bit. And also, we always knew that Phoenix was sardonic on the inside, but he never voiced that.
Yeah,
This is Phoenix just kind of not giving a fuck and just voicing his thoughts at all times. And in some ways, he kind of just regresses to his older personality in the next 2 games. But we'll get into it because it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, definitely.
But I love Phoenix as a defendant. Turnabout Trump also holds the distinction of being, I think, the only tutorial case where the culprit is not immediately obvious. Turnabout Memories from Trials and Tribulations, that's the case where Phoenix is the defendant. That, I think, is the only other case where the culprit isn't just directly shown to you at the beginning of the case. But this one holds the distinction of being the only one where I think the culprit is not obvious, and there's actually kind of a twist.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also very intimately involved in the overall narrative, and that really comes into play once you get to Turnabout Succession, right? The events that occur here and also the culprit. I mean, in a lot of ways, it leaves a lot of loose threads, including the motive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a different take on your typical tutorial. Although, I mean, I don't know if I would call it my own personal favorite, honestly, but I mean, it's pretty good.
I think in this game, Turnabout Trump is my favorite of this game, which is interesting because it's a tutorial case and it's only just 2 trial sections. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good case. It really sets up Apollo Justice in the best way possible. See, and the thing with Apollo Justice is Shu Takumi didn't want to work on another Ace Attorney game. He felt that Phoenix's story was concluded with Trials and Tribulations. So eventually he was pressured into making another Ace Attorney game anyway by Capcom, but his original plan was not to include Phoenix or any characters from the original trilogy at all.
Yeah, I think that it probably would have been a little bit of a stronger game had they done that, you know? But then we wouldn't have got that awesome relationship between Phoenix and Trucy. You know, we wouldn't have got that. We wouldn't have got the whole just that mysterious factor that Phoenix had throughout that game, you know? But I mean, would it have worked like that? Yeah, probably. I think that I can see it working like without all of the original characters and everything.
It could, because the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles exist, right? And those games...
Certainly, yeah.
Those games, we actually see it on a whole entirely new cast. So we know that it could work, but ultimately I'm actually glad that Apollo Justice did include elements of the characters it does. By the way, it's the only mainline game that doesn't have Edgeworth at all.
Yeah, I noticed that. You know, that was interesting. Also, no Maya even.
Yeah, Maya, she doesn't actually come back until Spirit of Justice.
Yeah, we don't see Maya or Pearl even.
Yeah,
we don't see any of we don't see any of the Fays involved in any of these cases in this game.
But the fucking doctor, the creepy patient that's pretending to be a doctor made it in. Why him of all people?
That fucking guy. Yeah. Oh yes. It's like, keep him away from Trucy.
Yes, and I'm surprised that they kept that particular conversation in if you presented her. Like, I'm just like, why him? I was like, no.
They could have brought back anybody.
I know.
It would have been great to see Francesca or something like that, but they had to bring him.
Gumshoe, Larry, anybody but him. God.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see Larry this time, did we?
Not till Spirit of Justice.
Yeah.
So this game did, per Takumi's original concept, really focus on mostly an original cast, with Emma from Rise from the Ashes returning, Phoenix kind of taking a background role, and that fucking doctor, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
To be fair, Gumshoe is in the game. He's just in the flashback section.
Yeah, and thankfully his salary didn't get cut again.
I think his character arc actually ends with him getting a salary increase in investigations too.
Oh, that's good. Good for him.
Good for him. Or so I've heard.
Good for Gumshoe.
But Apollo Justice overall, Bo, what are your thoughts on the first game of this trilogy, Apollo Justice Ace Attorney?
I think it's a very interesting and original take on the original Phoenix Wright formula. And there's plenty of likable characters here and very relatable characters that, I mean, it kind of spoke to me in a different way than the first Phoenix Wright trilogy, you know? Especially now that I'm a little older and everything, it was much more relatable with like Phoenix, you know. Also I could relate to I could relate to Vera a little bit. I could even relate to Clavier, you know, as a audio engineer and someone with a music background. So yeah, this was probably one of the best character-driven versions of this formula, and it's also one of the better story arcs in the series. So, I can see the I can see some of the complaints, though, you know, especially near the end and everything. But otherwise, I would play through it again easily. You know, maybe even for a Collateral Let's Play episode. You know.
Yeah, I would love to do a Let's Play of Apollo Justice, and it's a very short game. It's only 4 cases. Feels like it could have been more, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
but it's a good introduction. I think it's a solid entry. It rates lower for a lot of people, I think, because doesn't have as many of those just great like breakout cases, and its final case is a little underwhelming. But again, in my opinion, it has the best tutorial case in the series. I don't think any of the cases are bad in this game. Even its so-called weakest case, Turnabout Serenoid, I actually think is a lot of fun. And I enjoyed some of the aspects that they added to the game, like the perceive mechanic, which we didn't really talk about, but just being able to like focus in on tells of enemies, which goes into that poker theme from the first case, right? But being able to look for tells in witnesses, which is something I used to kind of do in the trilogy, is while I was scrubbing through testimonies, I would look through witnesses' animations and see if like maybe that's the statement that you're supposed to present or press on based on like having different animations. Apollo Justice actually turned that into a real mechanic.
Yeah, I really liked that as well. You know, I mean, it really made you kind of, you know, focus on every little detail and kind of hang off of every little word that they say, you know, because you kind of have to in order to catch that one little tweak, that one little nervous twitch, that one little obvious tell that something's amiss with them, you know.
Yeah,
and I liked it, and it was it added a little more intensity to the cross examinations.
Plus, the theme that they play is just like a slowed down version of the cross examination theme, so it really works.
Not even just slowed down; it's reversed. If you listen closely, it's actually played in reverse. Yeah.
That's awesome. They actually continue to use that theme as Apollo's like perceive theme, because the perceive mechanic returns in the next two games, but as mainly an investigation mechanic, as it turns out. But it's basically like it's Apollo's equivalent of Phoenix's Magatama. And the music of this game and all three of these games is continues to be incredible. Apollo Justice may very well have the best pursuit theme in the series.
Oh, absolutely. I love the soundtrack here, man. And even before I played this game, you know, since I listened to a lot of YouTube mixes of Apollo Justice and Phoenix Wright and Great Ace Attorney music. I mean, I've already heard a lot of this stuff, you know. Like, I think this also has the best investigation music as well. Like,
oh, yeah.
Wrong, you know. Like that's a good little driving beat. Like I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's like let's investigate. Yeah. But yeah, it's seriously a very underrated soundtrack.
Objection! Apollo Justice is doing fine! Objection!
Time to bring it to an end.
Objection! Objection!
Silence!
Sakura!
The prosecution is also ready.
the 7 seas. Just a bunch of scallywags who are as free can be. We swim through storms and waves, all because you see grand treasure and adventures waiting just for me.
Let's take a breather.
Oh, okay.
It has a whole aesthetic to it, and it's the last 2D game in the series. After this, and it's the one, it kind of stands out in this trilogy as a result. The series moved to 3D, and I actually kind of enjoy, at least for the original games, that the sprite work, and the 2D animations. I think that they're kind of part of the charm of what made those games great. That being said, the transition to 3D that we see in Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice, and arguably Spirit of Justice, I think, does it a little bit better. I did feel does a really good job of emulating those animations in 3D.
Yeah, it really made the characters a lot more expressive as well, and I think that it really just kind of livens the graphics up a little bit. Even the way that they presented the courtroom itself is different. It's not so much a still; it's actually a little 3D. It's a 3D court model that you kind of rotate around a little bit.
Yeah,
So yeah, the graphical upgrade I think was actually pretty spot on and actually really fitting. But also, what was really fitting was adding the anime cutscenes. It's like that was actually really different and really interesting as well.
Yeah, I love the anime cutscenes. I really think that they add to it, and I'm glad that they came back in Great Ace Attorney. I think Great Ace Attorney arguably actually belongs in 3D, and that series does it well. I may prefer the Phoenix Wright and Apollo Justice games in 2D, but I don't hate the 3D games, and I think that there's still quite a lot of value there. Like I mentioned earlier, they did a good job of making it feel like the original games still, even down to having kind of the choppy animations that just move from one frame to the next. And
yeah, they still kind of kept that. That was especially evident even in the third the tutorial case of the third game with Peace, Love, and Understanding. I mean, we'll get into that here a little bit, but yeah, you could definitely tell that they kept that style going, and I think that it was all the better for it. Really, I mean, you gotta have that. That's how you. That's the feel of the gameplay. You kind of have to keep it like that.
You do, and also. One challenge that they ran into was that a lot of the sprites in the original game had different proportions in frames because they were all just drawn that way, and so when you're doing the objection and the character's hand is noticeably bigger because it's up in your face, so they had to find a way to do that with 3D models, and I honestly felt that they did a good job. Utilizing the angles the way that they did in order to still achieve that effect. And also breathe new life into some of these animations and just modernize the experience.
Plus, it makes the actual meltdown animations all the better as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we had some pretty epic meltdown animations in the previous trilogy and in Apollo Justice, but here in this game especially, it's like I love how much more expressive it is, and even whenever they're hit with a contradiction and they're in defeat, it's like those animations kind of have a little more punch.
They do. But what did you think about the opening case of Dual Destinies, Turnabout Countdown?
Just a good old-fashioned Mad Bomber scenario, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
something that I'm kind of surprised they didn't really do all that much in the original trilogy. What was like a Mad Bomber scenario. I mean, we had a hostage scenario, but with Maya and everything, but we didn't have a Mad Bomber scenario, and this was pretty much that trope right to the T. You know, I mean, like we are shown the actual culprit. He is the bomb technician and everything, like in the beginning.
Yeah, Ted to Nate.
Ted to Nate, yeah, good one right there. But yeah, just his his overall character. I mean, he was just off-putting immediately. I was just like, nah, screw this guy.
He refuses to talk. He just uses the voice synthesizer. Like, bro.
Oh, that's so fucking cringe, dude. So pretentious even.
I know. He's like, it's faster to just type. Motherfucker, shut up. What do you think you are, Stephen Hawking? Like,
I almost think that one student guy from Apollo Justice, the second one, that dude.
Oh my God, we
I
didn't talk
would
about
think
the
that he
panty
would-
snatcher.
The panty snatcher, that motherfucker. I would expect him to fucking try to do some shit like that, dude.
Fuck him
But
and fuck the journalist, Brushel. Fuck that guy. I hate him. I hate him so
Brushel?
much. I want to punch his stupid fucking face.
I don't know. I didn't
Both
think
of
him
them.
bother me that much. I mean, yeah, he's a little gross, but I mean, he's a man with a mission. He's a muckraker, you know. I mean, that takes a very specific type of person to do that, and that's just his thing. And I mean, hey, he actually became friends with Zach Gremery, so I mean, I guess he wasn't that bad. You know, he was actually a close personal friend to him. So, so you know what? I'll defend Bushell. I'll defend him a little bit.
He does get a little bit better once you kind of see the relationship with Grammary. But back to Ted to Nate. He's a fun culprit because, you know, it's like obvious that this guy is the bomber. And it's also just a cool scenario. It also, once again, actually does tie into the overall narrative. Turnabout Countdown actually takes place in the middle of the final case of the game, or technically the second to final case, the Cosmic Turnabout. But the Cosmic Turnabout and Turnabout for Tomorrow are kind of two parts of the same case, actually. So like those three cases are like all pretty much like the same story arc. But yeah, Dual Destinies is completely out of order, actually. It starts with Turnabout Countdown, and then it tells a few flashback cases. So you get a case with Apollo, and then you get a case with Athena, and then the special case, the special episode, Turnabout Reclaimed, is actually Phoenix's first case as a lawyer. That takes place during that time frame as well. And then we get to the final couple cases of the game. So the whole thing is told out of order.
I see.
By the way, when you get through Dual Destinies, I do recommend playing Turnabout Reclaimed, the special case.
Yeah, I saw that there was a special case for it. Is that was in the original release, right? Or
No,
is
it was
something
it
that
was
special to this.
Not special to this, but it was DLC. It and Spirit of Justice both have a DLC case, which were naturally included, and don't have to do with the overall plot. So this one actually takes place between Turnabout, I think between the Monstrous Turnabout and Turnabout Academy, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I recommend playing it before the final case is what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Play it after you finish the Monstrous Turnabout is probably because that's where it chronologically takes place. And it really just, it's a special, it's like an extra case. And there are characters involved who have the implication. You'll just play it in that order and trust me. But Dual Destinies is a lot of fun. In my opinion, it might be the weakest out of this bunch just because I felt like it's a little bit dumbed down. Like they made everything almost a little bit too easy until you get to like the end.
maybe I could kind of see that, and I think the biggest way that I can see that in this game is through the mood matrix. I kind of found that a little less challenging than the perceive function from Apollo Justice, or even the Nagatama. You know, it's
even the Magatama and the perceive mechanic get dumbed down in this game, and you don't actually lose health.
Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? What the fuck?
The mood matrix does get harder because, and actually, the mood matrix is kind of like the new gimmick of this game. So I want to talk about this because this is Athena's ability, right? Which is used during trial sections specifically. And it's actually kind of cool because what it allows you to do is take a testimony and actually look at the witness's emotional response to those situations. And so what you're looking for is an unexpected reaction. So like, why do you feel happy when you saw this body? That doesn't make any sense, right? But it gets a little bit more complicated than that, and you have to start looking at like the difference between reactions. So it's like, why did you feel more surprised by seeing the killer holding a banana than you saw them killing the victim, you know?
Or in the context of the first case, you know, how Juniper, you know, she was both kind of happy and shocked whenever all the debris was falling, and then you find out why that was.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so it is kind of cool, and then there's even in the later cases there's even sections of that where the emotions are just completely out of control, and so you have to find the root cause of what's causing their emotions to spiral. And like the perceive mechanic, you generally end up having to back it up with evidence before you wrap up the therapy session. But I do like these little therapy sections, and I think that they're the main reason why Athena is actually included in every case in this game.
Yeah.
Either as an assistant or as the lead attorney.
Yeah, but I mean, Athena herself is a very interesting character in her own right. I mean, I haven't really gone that far into her. So far, I just know her, and I know, you know, how she fought for Juniper, which, by the way, justice for Juniper. Justice for Junie. It's like they were trying to do her dirty. Why, how would they think that nice girl would fucking be a bomber?
Would you believe me if I told you that that's not the only time that she's done dirty in this game?
No.
It's not even the only time she's a defendant.
Oh, they're gonna do her dirty again. But hey, at least she gets to be reunited with Apollo, right?
So, so the characters in this game are fun. They continue to be wacky. I did feel like the cases weren't as strong once again as like the original trilogy, but I will say that the last two are actually quite a bit of fun, and the DLC case. Like the last one has kind of space themed, but it also gets into Prosecutor Blackwell's backstory, and I fucking love Prosecutor Blackwell. He is fantastic. You haven't met him yet, Bo, but you're gonna love him. Prosecutor Blackwell is awesome. So he's actually a prisoner. He's a convict of a case from 7 years ago, which you are going to unravel in the final case of this game, as tradition dictates.
Of course, yeah. You know.
But he also serves as a prosecutor, and so he's been brought out to prosecute trials, and he acts as the rival prosecutor in this game. And man, he's witty, and he's sharp.
What is it like some kind of community service thing that he's doing? I mean,
it's revealed there's a specific reason why he's being allowed to prosecute, and it ties into the main narrative of this game. But he's just a really interesting character, and he comes back in Spirit of Justice and actually helps Athena as part of the defense.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Prosecutor Blackwell is my homie. I love that dude. He's so cool. He speaks in like an old-timey like British dialect, but he's a total weeb, and he makes all these references to samurai. I think in the Japanese version he was originally he's supposed to be a ronin, but in the localized version, they just call him a samurai because most people aren't really aware of the difference.
Yeah, they know specifically what a ronin is, you know, to the whole samurai culture and everything. So yeah,
but that's what he is. He's a ronin, and he also does iaido in the courtroom.
Nice. Hell yeah.
And he has a hawk named Taka, which means hawk.
Nice. That's fucking bad, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and like you mentioned Athena, she's great. She's a wonderful addition. Another character that gets shafted later on, like Trucy does in these two games.
Damn it! Why do they keep doing that to these awesome female characters that they keep bringing into these games? You know,
Right?
They even shafted the Fays, man. Up until a certain degree, you know.
Good point, man. Yeah, and like Athena's great. You know, she's an 18-year-old who studied abroad to get her law practice to license early, and so she can practice law. And so she's just fresh out, and she's basically the new rookie attorney. You know, like Apollo and like a Phoenix before, but she's even more naive than them in a lot of ways because of how young she is. But I love how she constantly speaks with in different languages and says like phrases in various European languages as a reference to the fact that she studied in Europe.
Exactly. Yeah. It adds some depth to her a little bit. And honestly, I mean, I like that she also studies psychology as well. You know, it's like, and that's kind of what serves as the basis for the mood matrix.
Her and Blackquill both.
Interesting.
Study psychology and use psychology in the courtroom. Yeah, Simon's whole thing is actually like using psychology against his opponents, and he actually gets like the judge to make the opening statements in court.
Nice.
By fucking with him psychologically. Yeah, he's a master of psychological manipulation.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Also, Bobby Fulbright, the next himbo detective, the spiritual successor of Gumshoe. You're going to love Fulbright.
Oh, man, we get another himbo detective?
In justice we trust.
Oh, my goodness. That sounds awesome.
He's great. So he's obsessed with justice and like everything he does for justice. And so a lot of times he ends up helping the defense because Athena like manipulates him into believing that that's the more just thing to do, is to give them all the information that the prosecution has.
No, I feel that. That's exactly how I would go about it. You know?
So, yeah, he's just so lovable. And there are some very interesting character developments with him and that happen later on in the game that I couldn't possibly spoil. But God, I love Bobby Fulbright.
Nice.
And they brought back Pearl for the DLC case.
Awesome, Pearly.
And you get to cross-examine an orca in that case.
That's awesome. So I guess Pearly is a little older in this episode, probably about Maya's age in the first game by this point.
Actually, I think so. I think she is 17 in Dual Destinies, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's fucking adorable.
Same age that Maya was in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, yeah. So, and the Dual Destinies main theme is the Dark Age of the Law that it picks up from the end of Apollo Justice. That's briefly mentioned at the end of Apollo Justice.
The Dark Age of the Law,
which started with Wright's disbarment 7 years ago, and also Simon Blackwell's case, the prosecutor that was found. So an attorney that was found fabricating evidence, allegedly, and a prosecutor who was found guilty of murder, allegedly.
Wow. Damn. I would see why that would cast a little bit of a shadow over the judicial system for a little bit. It's like, yeah, that's two pretty serious scandals in a row.
Right. And so, yeah, we enter this Dark Age of the Law, and I swear to God, if I hear the term, the ends justify the means, one more fucking time. To be fair, they lampshade it. They do the same thing with Turnabout Serenade, which is my justification for that, is they do lampshade the whole showing you the same thing over and over again. But Turnabout Academy has this gimmick where they constantly use the phrase, the end justifies the means.
God
but
damn it.
It's essentially, it's the core of the Dark Age of the Law and this idea of doing whatever it takes to win, including fabricating evidence or bringing false charges. So,
God damn, that sucks. I mean, that's almost as bad as like Kurain. You know, it's like, geez.
Yeah, and it similarly has much higher stakes because the legal ramifications of the final case of the game are basically bringing about the end of the Dark Age of the Law by solving one of the cases that started it, essentially. So that's what's at stake here, and it's actually a really interesting exploration. I just, again, the things that I dislike about Dual Destinies is that I do feel like it's dumbed down quite a bit. Also, they took away the ability to examine for some reason. Like, you can only examine specifically the crime scene. You'll have like one section per case that's the crime scene, and you can actually look around it in like 3D and look at it from like different angles. But it's the only time that you can examine for some reason.
That's weird. Huh.
Spirit of Justice brought examining back, but for some reason Dual Destinies took it away. I don't know why. And it does feel a little bit too easy. And sometimes the 3D models I feel are a little bit jank. Spirit of Justice, on the other hand, I feel like really perfected the aesthetic.
Absolutely. Yeah, the aesthetic looks a lot better here, you know? And even the anime cutscenes start to look a little better.
Yeah. They definitely, like, the models definitely look different in Spirit of Justice. I can tell that they redid them. But I do feel like the way that they used colors and everything just really actually, it gives the game almost its own identity. And a lot of that is also partly due to the fact that half the game takes place in Kurain.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is here and there, they'll actually throw in some voice acting. Here and there, like for instance, before the Dance of Devotion, you know,
Oh,
Rafe,
Holy
actually,
Mother.
Yes, you actually hear her prayer before she starts the dance.
Or
So-
you'll hear this one later. A dragon never yields.
Nice. Fuck yeah. That sounds badass.
It is badass, man. And also, Prosecutor Sadmati. People hate this guy, but I kind of like him. I don't know. I see why people hate him because he's written to be really infuriating, but he has a few voice lines where he actually speaks in Kurainese. Oh, and also both have their own like unique like objection type statements. So sometimes instead of objection, Black Quill will go silence, and Prosecutor
Nice.
Sadmati will go Satura.
Damn, that's awesome.
And he'll also start chanting. He'll be like Satoram nom 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 nom.
That's fucking crazy, dude. Hell yeah.
And he throws so like Black Quill does Iaido in the courtroom and like slashes his opponents with the blade and also his own witnesses when they don't cooperate. But not dissimilar to how Franziska operates in the courtroom. But
so he's extra entertaining then.
yeah, but Noyuda, Prosecutor Satmati, he throws prayer beads at the defense.
Oh no.
And restricts
Damn
them.
it.
Yeah. So he is from Kurain. So he's an international prosecutor from Kurain. But he also comes aboard for the United States cases. So half the games in this case are in Kurain, including the tutorial one, and half of them are in the US. And for most of the game, Phoenix is in Kurain and Apollo and Athena are back home. But Prosecutor Sadmati, I guess, keeps traveling back and forth between the two countries wherever the fuck he's needed. And he has a very unpleasant opinion of defense attorneys, as you might imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. I just want to say that I can totally see why Payne fucking defected to Kurain so that he could be in a place where there are no lawyers. like the absolute coward he is.
Oh, yeah, this is Gaspin Payne, the brother of Winston Payne.
Gaspin Payne, the brother. Yeah. He came here just because it was easy. It was like the Kurain justice system is practically a sure win for the prosecutor up till Phoenix shows up. So,
well, and
so,
that's a major element of the Kuraini's trials in this game. So as you've played through in the tutorial case, in Kurain there is the Defense Culpability Act, which states that defense attorneys or anybody actually who would defend somebody that's found guilty will receive the same punishment as them, usually death, seems to be the implication. And so there are actually no practicing defense attorneys in Kurain until Phoenix shows up and starts stirring the pot.
I love him for that, you know. I mean, he's not wrong to do that, you know. I mean, hell, they were about to throw the book at a little kid. You know, it's like, come on now.
And to be fair, Wright jumped in before he knew what was going on. But even when he was giving a chance to step down after he had already been told of the ramifications, he still stands by. And he's basically forced into that position yet again when Maya becomes the defendant once again.
Oh, come on. Damn it, Maya.
They brought Maya back in this game, so she's training in Kurain because she is actually about to complete her training to be the master of the Fae clan.
Nice. So she's much older, a little wiser, but not really that much different, right?
No, she's basically exactly the same, but that's what Phoenix says. But I can see a little bit of maturity, and I can say the same thing about Wright. One thing about Phoenix in Dual Destinies is that he has an air of maturity around him, and Spirit of Justice as well, but that also gets kind of flipped on its head. I'll explain. But a lot of people feel that Phoenix just immediately reverted to his personality from the first 3 games, but he doesn't. If you'll notice in Dual Destinies, the way that Phoenix builds his arguments as opposed to Apollo and Athena, he's not nearly off, as much in the situation where he ends up having to overturn his original argument and just completely flip everything, and overturn actual conclusions that he's made. And he's also far less often cornered and has absolutely nothing to say. You can actually see his competence. Of course, once he gets to Kurain, that's kind of flipped on its head because he's in a completely different country with another legal system, and he's a fish out of water. And so he's back to...
Yeah, but even so, he still goes right up to that defense defense box, and he just takes command. He has a more commanding presence in these games overall.
He does. And that comes into full force in the final case of this game where Apollo and Phoenix actually have to fight each other on opposite ends of a civil case.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah, you play as Apollo and you actually have to take on the Turnabout Terror himself.
Damn, nice. That's awesome. I can't wait to play that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But Wright finds himself in Kurain, where not only is the defense putting their own life on the line as they're defending their defendants, but there hasn't been a single not guilty verdict in 23 years due to the fact that they use the divination seance, which, like spirit channeling, is a real thing. But what it allows Rayfa, who's one of my favorite characters in the franchise, actually, who's the royal priestess, view the memories of the deceased, their final moments, from their perspective and see the sensations that they were feeling. And the rest of the court gets to see. And what did you think about the divination seance segments?
I think that within the context of each case, I think that it's a very interesting mechanic. I mean, and it kind of also fits into the overall theme of, shaking things up in Kurain, is that you actually kind of use that in tandem with cross-examining, which you would think that they would have allowed anyways, because, there's no way that even the memories of the dead can't be infallible, in the end, they were still people at one point. So you kind of have to break through that a little bit. And honestly, by cross-examining, using it as a tool to cross-examine, it's like, you're able to kind of get into the actual truth of what really happened. Like when I watched the whole thing with Albie, I was just like, well, hold on a second. It's like, for one, do we see a murder weapon in his hands? It's like, do we see... It's like, is he even in the treasure chamber? It's like, it was very illuminating, and it really kind of lent itself well to the typical cross-examining mechanic. So, I liked it. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It's and it's not nearly as easy as like the mood matrix to get down. There's still a little bit of a learning curve to it.
There is. I do feel like it's a little bit more difficult, actually. Even early on, I found myself stumped. It's cool because, like, the way it works is that, we're seeing the memories of the dead, sure, but it's the interpretation of those. What's really going on, and what assumptions are you making, and is the royal priestess Rayfa making? Apparently, in the last 23 years, every divination seance interpretation has just been taken as is. So, she's actually, and she's only 14, but she's actually completely dumbfounded by the idea that her interpretation could be wrong and that she could have sent people to their deaths. And that's a major part of her character arc in this game and her relationship with Phoenix, which I honestly adore.
Yeah, I can see how that would get kind of deep. I can see how that would get a little deep for her. That would be pretty heavy. It's like, I mean, I would just be like, I mean, if this thing that I've been doing can be like, if you can like make cracks in that, the way that Phoenix Wright did, it's like, then what the fuck have you been doing the last several years of your life? Like, what have you been doing to these people?
Yeah.
So yeah, the ramifications are pretty laid bare right there.
Yeah, and you wonder why there's a revolution going on in this country.
Exactly, man. It's like, I mean, dude, it's practically almost like Iran, practically. It's like, I mean, it shows the dangers of a theocratic judicial system or system of governance.
One that you will actually be dismantling by the final case of this game, and God, it's so good.
That brings out the anarchist in me. I'm like, hell yeah, dismantle all hierarchies. Fuck it. I'm down for that.
Overturn this fucking legal system. And yeah, Phoenix just coming up, Phoenix and Apollo coming to Kurain and just shaking the shit. It's one of the central themes of this game. And honestly, it's really satisfying. But, it's kind of interesting seeing, Phoenix, this master attorney, this ace attorney, just completely out of his element, so to speak, in this country where, the legal system is handled completely differently, where people commonly hate defense attorneys and see them as unscrupulous people that will fabricate evidence and are horrible and awful, even teaching their kids this, young people like Albi and like Rafa, who were just brought up this way and don't know different.
Yeah, it's real indoctrination, I mean, and it really shows the negative effects of that and why that shouldn't be applied into a judicial system.
Yeah. Spirit of Justice is my favorite out of this bunch. Out of these three games, Spirit of Justice is my favorite because it does a lot of new, interesting things. And puts the characters in interesting places. Not only Phoenix, but Apollo as well. The stakes just feel so much higher in every case. I mean, the Kuraini's trials, obviously, we know why the stakes are higher. Phoenix's life is literally on the line. But hell, in the second case in this game, Apollo's case, the magical turnabout, the future of Write Anything Agency is put at stake. Because I felt like they kind of needed to really just take the stakes up in that case. Just because of what they do with all the other ones.
Yeah, I kind of like that it seems like a more political game in a sense than we're used to. I mean, especially with the Kurain cases, because I mean you're pretty much getting involved in the politics of a foreign country there, and you're shaking those politics up,
No, it really is a very political game. And I mean that you can even see that in the first case. And like, if you can imagine, if there's this cultural understanding of how the divination seance works and how it's used in trials, don't you think that somebody could manipulate that and use that to their advantage?
Absolutely. And I mean, for one, the prosecution have been doing that the whole time, I mean, without any defense attorneys, it's like the prosecution has just been pretty much, taking them at face value, like pretty much for like 20-something years,
Yeah. And they managed to make the stakes similarly high in the second case, Apollo's case, the magical turnabout, where it's the one where Trucy is the defendant, and you're basically trying to prove that her, magic trick that turned into an accident but then the prosecution thinks that she actually intended to murder the victim, and then you have to prove that somebody else set her up. And anyway, that case actually has one of my favorite culprits in the series. He or she is such a good character. Like just fantastic.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Awesome. So far in this particular game, my favorite is Peace Lobin Understanding. It's like that he's my people, man. He turned out to be a straight metalhead. I'm just like, dude, my man.
Peace, love, and understanding. I love it. The names of this game are so they're so stupid, man.
Full electric. But I get that, dude. That's total metal right there, dude. That's just how metalheads can be, you know?
But but the puns. Okay, so Ace Attorney was already pretty bad with some of the puns. I'm looking at you, Deed Man, in Ace Attorney Investigations. Fuck you for existing. But the Kuraianese names are just so much more fun because they're taking like obvious English puns and just making them into like foreign sounding names, and it's just
they are.
so
I'll
it's
be
so like
your
groan
guide.
inducing.
Yeah,
Also,
it is a little
some
bit
weird. There's some weird implications because apparently the people in Kuraian also speak English.
Weird.
So
yeah. What's up with that?
yeah, that is a little weird, right? And then apparently there's some Japanese like works its way into there somehow. I don't know. Faye isn't even a Japanese name, so explain that one.
Yeah, that's weird.
God, yeah, Spirit of Justice I think wins for me for just trying some new things. Like I said, the stakes are so high in almost every case. I mean, whether that's because you're in fucking Kurain or in the magical turnabout where the future of the agency is put into question because of some shaky contract shit. Or even in the beginning of the final case where it's, you know, the relationship of Apollo and Phoenix at stake.
Yeah.
Which the only case in this game that doesn't have high stakes is Turnabout Storyteller, and that's Athena's case, and that one's a Rakugo case.
Interesting. Hell yeah.
That actually deals with Rakugo, and it's lighthearted, and that's the one where Simon Blackquill comes back, and that's actually kind of a fun change of pace. It's a little refreshing to go from, oh my god, we're gonna die, to just a classic, Ace Attorney case.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude. That sounds awesome.
And then, of course, the return of Maya. She is literally one of my favorite characters. I love her so much.
She is the best. She even has the best theme song ever, dude. That's classic to me, man.
Yeah, and Edgeworth takes a role. He actually acts as the prosecutor in the final case of Dual Destinies and in the DLC case of Spirit of Justice.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude. Gotta have Edgeworth in here, man. I mean, come on now. Much older daddy Edgeworth, right?
Older daddy Edgeworth.
Older daddy Edgeworth. Yeah.
Yeah, the special cases of Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice I wouldn't sleep on. Turnabout Reclaimed is actually fantastic. I mean, you also get to cross-examine an Orca, so...
Yeah, awesome. I mean, a fucking Orca, why not? I mean, we already did a parrot,
So, I mean, yeah, it's just the natural progression. What I love is that, at one point the judge brings it up, and he's like, and he actually gets visibly disappointed because Phoenix decides not to cross-examine the Orca. But then he later does cross-examine the Orca, after all. And then in Turnabout Time Traveler, which is the special episode of Spirit of Justice, we actually deal with an apparent time travel plot, which obviously gets explained in a much more reasonable way, but that's a fun case just because of that, and also the fact that the murder took place during a wedding, a steampunk wedding on an airship, and the defendant is the bride.
What the fuck? And they're all steampunk?
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun,
What?
and it's the first time since Turnabout Samurai that we've had the classical arrangement of Phoenix and Maya on the defense and Edgeworth on the prosecution.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. Hell
And the
yeah.
return of Larry Butts.
Oh, no. Larry. Hell yeah. If something smells, it's always the butts,
It's always
right?
the Butts.
Always the butts.
So what do you think he's like 9 years later?
Still as emotional as ever. Just, outburst after outburst after outburst. Having
He's
learned
literally-
nothing at all.
He's literally exactly the same. So Phoenix and Maya, in my opinion, are a little bit more mature, and you can tell. But Larry is 100% the same. And I hope Gumshoe is. God damn it. Ace Attorney 7 better bring back Gumshoe. It better bring back Franziska. And you know what? Just bring back Old Bag.
Bring back Old Bag. Bring back Maggie Bird. Bring them all back. Fuck yeah.
Lotta Heart.
Oh, of course, dude. We gotta have Lotta. Come on now. We gotta have Lotta in there.
No, but at the very least, I would love to see Gumshoe and Franziska come back. It's like the only thing that I want.
Dude, an older, more mature Francesca? Yeah, why not?
Hell yeah, an older, more mature Franziska. Also Maya, because like Maya went from just, that kind of like cute younger girl to like, I think she's kind of a babe in Spirit of Justice. She's 28.
Well, I mean, she is Mia's sister. She is a fae.
Oh, Mia. Oh, Mia is quite possibly the most attractive character in the series.
You think so?
I think so.
No. Desiree.
Oh, fuck yeah, Desiree.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Old Bag.
Old Bag. Old Bag is the Dommy mommy, I guess, right?
Actually, Adrian Andrews is really fine.
And Adrian Andrews is cool, but she looks like Riza Hawkeye, though.
She does look like Riza Hawkeye.
She does. She looks like absolutely like Hawkeye.
Go ahead and bring her back in Ace Attorney 7 too. Thank you. I don't know. Spirit of Justice kind of does lean into the nostalgia a little bit, which was nice because after 2 games of trying to do something completely different, it was actually really nice to have a lot more familiar faces besides Phoenix and Edgeworth.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, these 3 games I think are a lot of fun. Continue the tradition of great Ace Attorney storytelling. Bo, what are your final thoughts on the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy, or at least of what you've played?
Well, I mean, I played all of Apollo Justice, and that game was so many different things to me. Like I said, it's very relatable. Like, I mean, I kind of approached it in a different way, being that how the characters were. And, I also liked all the mechanics, the perceived mechanic and whatnot. And also, of course, Phoenix and Trucy are the best, and honestly, I like the whole thing with the Grammars. It's like that was an interesting, overarching story behind everything. So, but I mean, and the 2 tutorial cases I did for Spirit of Justice and Dual Destinies, it's like, yeah, they were a lot of fun. And I like the change to the 3D graphics. I really like the more mature version of the characters that we get. And I also like the more political dynamics especially of Spirit of Justice. So, I think that these are definitely. I'm going to play through more of the other 2 games, but for what I played, it's definitely everything I would ask for from a Ace Attorney trilogy. It's everything that I would ask from it. So, I would say definitely give this a play. It's not too expensive to pick up. I mean, it's good stuff.
I would say if you haven't played Ace Attorney ever, don't start with this trilogy. I would recommend starting with the original trilogy. That is just
absolutely.
to me the hands down the best starting point is the very first Phoenix Wright game, followed by Justice for All and Trials and Tribulations, and you can buy that trilogy. But if you play through those, this is the next, actually the best logical place to go afterwards, and then save Great Ace Attorney for last because it's a fucking gem. But yeah, it's a natural conclusion of the first 3 mainline games. Approaching this trilogy, it was really interesting to me because these are kind of seen as the weaker Ace Attorney games. So I really was interested in seeing my perspective on replay. And thankfully, I did manage to get through every case in the time it's taken us to record this. So I can say that I was able to look at it more objectively. And I think my opinions on the games are more or less the same. But what I appreciated about them, I appreciate even more. Where I feel that they're weak, I noticed even more this time. Spirit of Justice, I think, is a fucking banger. For me, I mean, it's right after the original trilogy and then the Great Ace Attorney games. Like, outside of those 5, I think Spirit of Justice is the one that comes after Unless you count Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, I also really enjoyed that one. That one's a hell of a good time.
I'm interested in checking that particular game series out. That would be interesting.
I haven't even really played the Professor Layton games very much, but the Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright crossover game is actually a lot of fun. It's really, really good. The story was phenomenal, and it feels like it's really going off the rails, but it's all explained, and it was just the storytelling is just top tier. So I don't know. It's kind of between that one and Spirit of Justice. If we're going after, the original games and the Great Ace Attorney games. And then I would say Apollo Justice and Dual Destinies.
I got you. Right on.
And Ace Attorney Investigations 1 is currently last for me because it's the only one that I haven't actually finished. So there must be a reason for that. I've heard a lot of good things about Investigations 2, though.
Yeah.
But no Ace Attorney game is a bad game. And this trilogy is no exception. And honestly, as a port, this is definitely the definitive way to view these games. They retroactively added a log to Apollo Justice, which Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice originally had, but the re-release of the Phoenix Wright trilogy didn't include that. The log feature, the ability to go back and actually see lines of dialogue that you might have missed. Like...
Yeah, that was actually very helpful, to tell the truth.
Yeah, that, and also they, added a little bit more consistency between the UI of the games. There's a whole animation studio. There's an orchestra hall. There's art. You can individually change the background and theme song of each menu for each individual game. They added a lot. They went balls to the wall with this port, and I'm honestly here for it.
Yeah, especially like the museum part and everything. Like I really like the whole. I like that orchestra section that they have, where you can pretty much listen to the entire. You can listen to the entire soundtrack orchestra style. It's actually a lot of fun, and a lot of the character models are really interesting. Like, I mean, it really goes in depth. Like, if you want to get into like the nitty gritty of this series, it's like this is the way to do it.
Yeah, and no, it really is. This is definitely made for the fans. Again, the music in this series is just sublime. Spirit of Justice has a lot of bangers on its track list, actually. That might be my favorite in terms of music as well. So being able to listen to all those tracks, even new orchestrated tracks that they added, and the whole animation studio where you could actually play every animation of every sprite or model between the three games. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Definitely.
Also, interestingly enough, they changed the voice actors to fit the ones in the 3DS games. So Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice actually uses all new voice cast. I don't know if you noticed. Apollo Justice originally used Phoenix's original voice actor, but they, I guess for consistency between the three games, they used the new guy. But I mean, in that game, it's literally just the objection and hold it lines, So I would take that.
Yeah, it's not anything that complex. So
yeah, but some people were disappointed because I mean, I do think that the original objection is actually better. Like Phoenix's original English voice line, like I don't know, there's just like there's a feel to it that's just different.
I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, it's kind of a little more high pitched, right? Like
yeah, and that was back then when they were just using the crew. So
yeah, definitely.
Overall, yeah, this trilogy is great. It was really fun to be able to play through these three games again. I'd only played through them once before, so I enjoyed the opportunity to play through Apollo Justice, Dual Destinies, and Spirit of Justice. And if you want to hear more Ace Attorney content from us later this season, we're actually going to be covering the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and I'm so excited about that.
I'm looking forward to that as well. I really love the soundtrack to that as well. Just that pure orchestrated, pure orchestral music and everything. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, the whole like Victorian aesthetic
it's
and
really
everything.
cool.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
But yeah, we'll be releasing that soon. Before that, we will be releasing our 2-part anniversary special. So I think the very next thing we should have out is part 1, which is going to be Fable 1. And then we'll be also talking about Fable 2 and part 2. And also part 2 of The Witcher 3. Plan to have those out as soon as possible. And also, my buddy Sam is going to be on our game launch review of Persona 3 Reload, which I've also been playing the hell out of. But between the Apollo Justice trilogy, The Witcher 3, Fable 1, Fable 2, and Persona 3 Reload, I have been swamped with games.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, no kidding. Damn.
But yeah, and Bo, what's going on with Collateral Cinema?
Our latest episode is our 2023 year-in review. You can check that out on Good Pods and wherever else you get your podcasts. And coming up very soon, we should have our episode on The Wraith out very shortly. Not too long, hopefully. And also, we will be talking about Happiness of the Kalakuris as our Mike-versary episode. And then we will be talking about Lost Highway with Vern from Cinema Recall. So look for those episodes. And also look on YouTube. Look for the latest Collateral Let's Play on our YouTube. Our most recent episode was Battletoads. And I will be recording The Punisher here very soon. So check that out. And also... find us on all the podcatcher apps, but especially Good Pods, where you can follow us there. You can like us and rate our episodes so that we can stay on the TV film podcast charts. So check us out there and wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube. Like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get a notification whenever we drop a podcast episode or a Let's Play.
And also check out our 2023 year-in review episode as well on Collateral Gaming and most of everything else that Bo said. Jesus Christ, Bo, you went on longer than I'm going to go on about Collateral Gaming plugs. But yeah, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have all of the links in the show notes. And also check out our Patreon, where we have exclusive Let's Play video game commentaries. Very soon here, I'll be uploading the Collateral Let's Plays that Bo has released on the Collateral Cinema YouTube channel, on the Collateral Gaming YouTube channel as well. So you'll have multiple places to look there. And probably start contributing Collateral Let's Plays of my own, because I think just using the built-in PS5 share feature, I might be able to put something together even if I don't have a capture card. So
that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. We should definitely do that. Hell yeah.
But yeah, stick around for that and more. And I guess as the season winds down, we should be to planning our next seasons. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, same here. Collateral Cinema Season 8 will be quite interesting. And we should be hitting our 100th episode then, so...
Hell yeah, bro. I'm excited, yeah. We're going to do a Redux on the Room, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I think for our 100th episode of Collateral Gaming, the plan is to do... I wanted to do a 2-part Redux on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
No, you should just do Hong Kong 97.
But, well, with that being said, the prosecution has made its case.
Objection!
This concludes the trial of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy. For the crime of being a bad game, we find it not guilty.
Not guilty. Exactly. Confetti everywhere.
So I think that there's really only one more thing left to say, Bo.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Objection!
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.